Darrin, we are officially on the road to Full Gear. But before we talk about I guess the Dynamite show this evening, what did you think of Wrestle Dream overall?
Oh, very good show. I was there. In fact, it was
Really?
out of
Okay.
St. Louis. Yes,
Very
so
cool.
up close and personal. Yes, it was a really good show. Uh, it was a little long, of course. I hate to lead with that because it was such a high quality show, but I mean that did play a factor in it. The main event of it was not my favorite kind of match. I felt like the fans were kind of dreading what might happen, and I think that might have taken away from some of it, but it kind of redeemed itself when Steen came out as a surprise partner and the person you wanted to win won it. So overall, really good show with some good wrestling in it. Could have cut out a few things to make it a little bit shorter, or at least have the show in the afternoon to make it a little more bearable. But outside of that, I do give it a strong thumbs up.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So I didn't even take in consideration. I think Brian Alvarez really identified it first regarding the commission, which I was like, wait, is that still a thing? I was just very befuddled by that. So I was wondering if AEW knew that or did their due diligence, because when you think I Quit match with Darby and Mox, you think everything, anything and everything was on the table. But relatively speaking, if this was supposed to be, I guess, based on the show tonight, as we're skipping ahead, I guess it's not the final chapter. It felt kind of
Doesn't seem
flat.
like it.
Yeah, no, on the night, the ending was kind of flat, and it kind of just felt rushed, just because I know you were there live, but it felt like we didn't even really get to see and breathe Darby's like big win with the AEW flag. It just immediately went right off the air. So I felt like maybe that was just, like you said, the show going a little bit longer. So you were there live. So in your estimation, so you would rather have the afternoon show? You think that?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
yes.
I think I'm on the same boat. I didn't think. No, to me, I think if you're gonna have a non-afternoon show, my preference, I think, would be a Saturday. I think
Yeah.
that's just my preference personally. I didn't think the show went long. I did think there was some fat on the show you could have trimmed, specifically. A lot of the matches to me, they were no, the action throughout was very, 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 very good. Some
Yeah.
matches were excellent. I just felt like there was a lot of, and maybe that was because you couldn't really bleed or go like in the crowd at all. You couldn't really
And
add
I'm
any
fine with
flair.
that.
Oh, no, 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 for sure. And you don't need to necessarily do that to every match. I did feel like a lot of the matches felt the same. You had a lot of bottom rope breaks, a lot of rough bumps. Like, not. I just wish, for me, I'm very particular. I was just like, God, guys, we're 6 years in. Can we not have some communication? Like, if we're gonna have rope, like, and if a lot of it was back to back to back too, and that's what felt a little repetitive. Now, don't get me wrong, like the tag team matches on the show were phenomenal, and I
They
just
were
thought,
from beginning to end. Yes.
yeah, match of the night for me, I think, was that TNT title match. I just thought Briscoe and Fletcher, just their chemistry is just incredible, incredible stuff. I really enjoyed that. Kudos to the crowd. I thought that, like, even from the pre-show, like I thought that building was pretty full from the pre-show, because I was obviously watching on the pre-show, and I was like, man, these guys are having a really, really good time. And I
Yeah, it was
just,
a near sellout, and people were engaged throughout. You could tell people were getting a little bit tired towards
oh,
the middle of the show, and I'm sure
sure.
that came across. And I did see bits and pieces of it on HBO Max version of it that I watched. Bits and pieces of it, and you could kind of tell. I mean, I didn't watch the whole thing entirely through when I got home, but I saw bits and pieces of it, and you could tell. But they came back up for the last few matches.
Mhm.
The tag team match, everybody was thoroughly engaged, and then we were all kind of on the edge of our seats for the main event as well.
Who
So
was the most over person on the card, do you think?
that's tough to say. There's a top tier, but I'm trying to think who. I mean, the Jurassic Express was people were really into Luchasaurus. It kind of reminded me of how he got over like during that first year, and people were really starting to get into him, and then the pandemic hit, and he kind of never recovered after that. So he was one of the big ones that kind of surprised me.
Really?
Omega coming out was a big deal, and obviously Sting, because people didn't expect that. But those stood out to me, and I know I'm forgetting someone because there were so many people on the show, but those are some of the big ones. People reacted really well to Bandito and Brody King as well.
Yeah, I will say physically, and I think from just a quality standpoint, I might go on a limb, but I feel like that might be Luchasaurus's best match in AEW.
Could be.
And incredible. I wish they would lean into it a little bit more. Like the man was on his deathbed. I feel like, obviously they kind of tell the story in the vignettes with Jack Perry, and I don't know if they want to necessarily hit that. Maybe he doesn't want that. But I just think that's an easy kind of like open goal, sympathetic story that they could lean into if they wanted to.
And there's still time to tell that story.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, I still think he can still be this, character, but I still feel like there's a lot of depth potentially there. I mean, my wife is a big fan of Jurassic Express because, she likes Jack Perry. And once I told her Luchasaurus was a Big Brother competitor, she knew exactly who it was. Like she didn't recognize him at first. So I just feel like there could be a good opportunity. But definitely my main takeaway was like, oh God, never turn Jack Perry heel ever again. I know he's kind of like not a white meat baby face, but they just seem, just go with them until the wheels fall off. The tag team division has desperately needed Jurassic Express, I think. And you missed the heydays of like the Lucha Brothers and Scorpio Sky and Kazarian. You finally are starting to kind of see a division again.
It's starting to make a comeback.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm really, really glad that they stuck with the Brodito. Historically, sometimes AEW is a little bit too in their ways and they don't go with something that's hot. And I'm really glad they stuck with Brodito. Bandito, I mean, he's really getting over. He seemed like he got over quite a bit with the crowd, and the crowd on Wrestle Dream really seemed like they were into Brody King as well.
Yeah, he's one to watch as well. And Bandito, and as far as tonight too, people were really getting towards the end of the match. People are starting to get behind him. So if you gave him something focused, a good storyline, I think they would get people more engaged in him as well. And I think that's a lot of potential to have a guy like that. He's marketable. He's very good. I mean, he's in contention for one of the wrestlers of the year. So and he's not someone that's just completely overexposed.
Right.
So
and
I would like to see them do more with him.
I think about that segment they had, it on the surface kind of seemed like a throwaway segment in Daly's place where Brodito kind of actually opened up to Bandito a little bit, and you got to kind of hear him speak a little bit. And because obviously with there's the stigmatism with like the Hispanic wrestlers that we don't want them to cut promos, and or they feel embarrassed because they don't speak English fluently. He speaks well, and even with the mask, he emotes very well, and I think that's extremely difficult sometimes to kind of like understand. I feel like he emotes better than some people without a mask. So I hope. I don't know what the end game is with Bandito. Ultimately, I actually agree with you. His resume this year, as far as wrestler of the year, I think it's pretty long. And I go back to that match, even though that Ring of Honor match he had with Takeshita.
Yes,
man, just incredible stuff. That tag match Brodito had with Takeshita and Okada. I was very glad. I was curious to see what, because the running gag now is, okay, what is Okada going to be in the mood tonight? I kind of feel like he was in the mood. If I had to put a percentage gauge, maybe like 75%. I don't know if he was like 100%, but I will say that drop kick spot throughout the match was incredible. And
he's really been hitting that lately.
No, and it's funny because one of my favorite matches this year that I attended was that Double or Nothing with him and Mike Bailey, and I was just like, okay, it's still there. I see it. I just, he picks and chooses when to challenge it or channel it. And I get it. You can't necessarily give everybody what they want all the time. I just, I'm glad it's still in there because All In. I will be honest, Darrin, I was a little underwhelmed by the Omega match. It wasn't really for me, and it was unfortunate.
All In.
No, I just didn't really care for it. It was too.
I meant the match this summer and All In.
Yeah. Because there's been like this discourse with Okada. It's like, oh, he's washed. I was like, no. I think it's getting there. I'm really fascinated to see what they do with him and Takeshita. I think that's like something that it's been bubbling on the surface in a while, and there's like different variances they could do with that. There's C2 implications. There's Wrestle Kingdom stakes that they can do. Okada actually going back to Wrestle Kingdom to main event. That's a story in its own right if they can kind of mend those fences.
And they really played into it tonight and making me think that that's going to happen sooner rather than later because they're teasing it right now. Maybe it's going to happen at Full Gear, perhaps. They ended the show with it. So
there's several things, and God, Wrestle Kingdom needs something. Like they would need. If they could actually work that out, that would probably help the interest of that card quite a lot.
Perhaps they would get the rematch, maybe. It'll be big.
Maybe. But a lot of time to tease that. But let's go ahead and do some admin real quick, Darrin, before we dive into the chat and the show. Darrin, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to the listeners and our YouTube watchers right now.
Sure. I'm Darrin Lilly, PWTorch contributor. I mainly handle the TV recaps of TNA, the TNA Impact show on Thursdays. They just finished Bound for Glory, which is their biggest show of the year, and they're seems like they're taking a break. Last week's show was kind of a post show. They had promos from the studio in Tennessee, and then this week is another kind of backstage look. I don't think their next TV taping is for a couple of weeks.
Oh wow.
So
okay.
They usually do this towards the end of the year and they come back in January, but it seems like they've moved that up a little bit. So I don't think we'll see any new in-ring content for a couple of weeks, but they had a good Bound for Glory was it was hit and miss. There was some questionable moments, of course, and they had the crowning of a new world champion in Mike Santana, and I think that there's a lot of different ways they can go with him. It's really good to see him break out as a singles, though, and we'll see how he does as champion. So it's something to look forward once they start resuming their schedule.
So by proxy, are you required to review Halloween Havoc just due to the Hardy Compound match? You were out.
Partaking. It's NXT and TNA pops up on there, and so I don't really count that, but. Yeah, I want to see where this partnership is and that continues. I think it served TNA well. They seem to, they have more fans in the stands and that type of thing. I'm not privy to the ratings because they're on Access TV, and
right.
I guess those don't really come out too much. And allegedly, they have some TV deal in the offing, so we'll see how that goes. But it's been to their success so far, so. Guess they'll continue going down that route, and it's helped freshen up the roster a bit. So
yeah,
it's been a positive, I would say.
Good to hear. And I'm Brian Zilem. I'm a contributor to PWTorch as well. I handle the hits and misses for Collision Weekly, and I host the Collision Cafe with my co-host Amina Jenny. I'm in the place of Wade Keller this evening. He had a something had come up, so Darrin and I are here to kind of man the ship. Now, Darrin does actually have a hard out. So around 10:15 Central Standard Time, he's got to head out. So I will still stick around. So if anybody wants to jump up and, join the chat afterwards, feel free. But Darrin and I will try to, buzz through this to kind of keep him on time. And then if anybody wants to stick around and jump on stage, you're more than welcome to. Let's actually look through the chat here real quick. Derek Mitchell, always good to see you. Thanks for joining. Adam, thanks for hanging out with us as well. And let's see, Derek Mitchell in the chat. AEW have enough problem issues attracting fans to Dynamite, but to have the NBA on Wednesdays does not help.
True.
I mean, with the new rating system, Derek, I don't even know anymore. I don't know what's up, what's down. Who's streaming on what. I mean, it's hard to really identify at this point. So, I would say, if SmackDown's doing this like a lower number and AEW's kind of like half it, that I would say it's probably doing okay. Like, who really knows anymore?
Yeah, I hope they get that straightened out. Apparently, people are going to take a
I
look
feel
at
like
that
you
to get it
need
corrected.
you need an attorney to try to decipher. I don't understand how it like all of a sudden it's like wrestling bad for ratings. So it just I don't understand how that works.
Yeah, but I'm sure everyone in the wrestling industry is hoping that it gets corrected from a business standpoint, because I mean that's going to affect some bottom lines, and maybe not immediately, but when contracts come up, yeah, that it is not a good thing for the industry in itself. And
no,
I prefer to see
not.
everyone thrive, but yeah, this is not good.
Not good. Fan Blast, big selling of Mox's Lost was the best thing on the show.
That was good. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, Moxley and his Dick Dastardly, days as the big bad of AEW. When he does lose, he does a good job and he makes it mean something. You even go back to the anniversary show with Samoa Joe choked him out. Losing the Hangman and then losing the Darby. I all things considered, the Death Riders, I think they'll be remembered a little bit more fondly than we were enjoying them in time, just because the last, I would say, 6 months has been a lot better for the Death Riders. But Moxley always does do a good job putting a guy over.
Yeah. And it makes me wonder where this is going. Is this just going to be a couple of week thing where he has lost confidence and doesn't want to tap out to people, or is this part of a bigger story? I also wonder if they're going to be in that in the Blood and Guts cage match, and this plays.
Can we? Yeah, we need. I feel like let's chat about that in chat if you want to jump in as too. I know Tony Khan mentioned that on the media call. I hope and pray to everything that's holy they do not try to do a double Blood and Guts on that same show. I feel like this is a cool thing for the women. I would say the last 2 months has been really, really promising for the women. Just let them have a night. Do we really need to have a men's and women's Blood and Guts match on the same night? Just because the format of those matches are a drag anyway. I don't know, man.
Kind of let the women have the spotlight.
Yeah,
I could see that.
If you're gonna do it, just let the women have it, because they were the first ones to call the thing. And I would feel like it would be really repetitive and kind of taking away from their moment. And I especially when you do, I felt at least the past kind of 2 weeks, although building the Wrestle Dream hasn't been great, the build for the women have been strong. I would say coming out of the pay-per-view, the women look great. And then obviously the booking of the tag team tournament looks even better tonight. So I just feel like if you don't need to throw the super good guys versus the Death Riders, I would say just hold your horses. If you want to do Orange and Darby versus Mox and whoever, take your pick, Death Rider, then I'm completely fine.
The thing is, there are some storyline openings to have the Death Riders in there or have the Don Callis family in there. So there is the opportunity, if they chose to go that way, the natural story is headed towards that and would make sense. So they're not shoehorning it in there. I would prefer that they just have the women and let that be the spotlight. But if they're going to go that way, it does kind of make sense because the storylines are headed that way. So it's not out of nowhere.
No, it's not out of nowhere. I just feel like it would be definitely too much, just because I feel like I've not really, I don't think I've enjoyed a Blood and Guts match yet. I feel like I'll always grade them on a curve. I'll say, okay, last year's was better than the other two. It's a hard show. It's a hard thing to book on TV because of the commercials. It's never ideal.
Sure.
And it's always going to be a draw. So I understand why they don't book it for a pay-per-view. There's a lot, and my only fear with them adding a men's, there is a lot of time for the Blood and Guts date. So it's like I don't know. So we'll see.
Yeah. And
One
that's
man.
coming up in a couple of weeks, right? Is it the 14th?
So we've actually got a good look. I thought I saw November the 16th for Blood and
Okay.
Guts. So we've got some time.
Got a little
And
time.
if anybody in the chat wants to confirm if I'm wrong, just feel free to let me know. One Man's Voice 867. Very strong show tonight. AEW is like a buffet. We get a lot of everything. Nice storytelling and in-ring action B plus. Yeah, I thought there was actually a lot of more stories kind of for like a post Fallout Dynamite than usual, which is good. That makes me a little bit more encouraged for Full Gear, where I would hope there's a little bit more variance to the show, where it's not a lot of overlap. I mean, based on a couple interactions, maybe we could get Fletcher and Briscoe again, but I'm encouraged by the build going into Full Gear. Darren, what about you?
Yeah. The emphasis on they're getting Statlander going and her against Mercedes Moné. They've added a personal issue in there, and I
Yes.
really like that. It's a good segment. I'm always a fan of the puppet showing up, and I thought this was. I think one of the comments in the chat was it was one of Mercedes' best segments. I would agree with that too. I thought she did very well. She's getting good heat from that, and people don't like her messing with the puppet, which I know is silly, but still people are into that. People seem protective of the puppet, I guess. But the main important thing is that it puts her and Chris with a personal issue, her going through the cake. Then they kind of distracted from that by having her in the tag team tournament.
Right. So it's just like interesting. Okay.
I'm sure that Chris will play a role in maybe the outcome of whatever match they have. But
yeah, no, I don't actually disagree. It's one of those goofy things like in wrestling, right? Like give us a wedding, like a cake in the face. That's all we really need. But the way they did Mini Monet, because I initially thought it was actually sat underneath the table as the puppet, but just the fact that it was still Harley, but then it was still sat underneath the table, and you do the side by side of how Mercedes actually did a very good job of almost imitating Mini Money in the cake as well. I thought that was actually very, very good.
yeah,
And
a lot of good elements going on there. So
very, very funny. And I felt like that was within AEW comedy to do, because I was a little worried at first. I was like, ooh, this could fall flat on its face. And luckily it hit the landing. I was like, oh my God, yes. Like, please, like, don't let this be really, really bad, because this was the first match that you've built on Full Gear. This should be a big deal. What do you, there's been a lot of conjecture, Darren, about Statlander as far as like performance, star power, things of that nature. Where are you at with Statlander currently as like the top women's title holder in the company?
I think it was a good choice. I think I've been saying for a while she's someone that has a lot of potential, and I think this is her chance. They're giving her a chance to get the spotlight. I think she's risen to the occasion. She has a little work to do on the promos. Her in-ring is phenomenal. I mean, she's always puts in good matches and everything, and the crowds are into her. She can work on the promos, but so far so good. I don't know. Makes me wonder if she's going to retain at Full Gear and how long they're going to take this. Is she a transitional champion? I would keep her as champ for a while because I think there's a lot of potential, and I really started seeing it when she teamed up with Stokely as her manager, and I really started to see her kind of break out. I think the storyline with Willow did her very good, but I like to see her go ahead and continue as champion. I think she's doing well.
Yeah, I guess for me, if you wanted to say who is Chris Statlander and you want to kind of identify with her, I completely understand that. The promos, it's hit or miss, up and down. And I would say the promo that she had this week was a lot better than last week. She seemed a little bit more confident. I think for me, if there is someone that's not like necessarily with her or doesn't get her, I would say that's more kind of on AEW, just because her character's been so up and down. She's healed, she's face, she's healed.
That's true.
So I would say if there are people kind of mixed or feel like Statlander, we want Willow, like I can kind of understand that. I'm a little, I do have a soft spot for Statlander just because, like, she's a day one person. God, God bless. I think they are. I wish they would identify this with her more. She's been on the DL a total of like 600 days with like her knees. So like I always kind of admire that because I might have just packed it up after the second time my knee blew out. So kudos to her for sure.
Yeah.
And if you would like to get involved on the show, you can always email Wade Keller at wadekellerpodcast@gmail.com. And that's Wade Keller Podcast at gmail.com. If you're not a VIP member already, please consider. Wade's got hundreds and hundreds of archives of interviews, newsletters, show notes to always have up on the show. We always appreciate everybody's support. So if you're not a VIP member already, please consider. It's a great option to have on the podcast form as well. It's so easy to do. I love the podcast option on for my feeds every time I get them. It's great to have. And if you're not a subscriber, please consider. And if you are watching on YouTube, if you can smash the like button and please subscribe. And we always appreciate our audio listeners as well. But Darrin, I know we've got you on your heart out, so we'll kind of just start breaking down the show. And chat, I will do my best to go through your chats here as we're going along. Let's see, we got One Man Voice 867. Normally TK post pay-per-view shows are playing, but this show was exciting and had purpose. I'm sure he's aware of lots of sports events happening now. Tony's a very smart guy. He really knows. But the show opened. Excalibur basically did a rundown of the show. Notable 2-man booth this evening, Darrin. Thank the Lord. I've kind of, for me, my sensibilities, I think I just need a 2-person booth for everything. Sports, three people, I think it's just too much. It's too much. And I just felt like tonight there was structure a little bit more between Excalibur and Danielson. Not that I don't like coworkers having a good time at their job, but sometimes in between Danielson, Excalibur, Taz, Shivani, they all just pop each other too much and get off track. And it's just like, you guys, there's a really cool match happening and you're kind of taking away from that. So I was actually very happy with the 2-man booth tonight. What about you?
It was fine. I mean, there's pros and cons to both. I kind of miss Shivani. I enjoy his banter, but I understand maybe, to your point, they kind of overdo it sometimes. But I also enjoy that because it's like having some friends that are just enjoying the show and along with you to talk to the audience. So I kind of enjoy that, and hopefully maybe Shivani's just taking a little rest because I know he does virtually all the shows. So,
right.
Yeah. So, but I mean, Bryan Danielson is fantastic, and this gave him a little more time to shine, especially in that Moxley match when he was breaking down the stuff that Moxley was doing differently that he hasn't done in prior matches and explaining that to the fans and why that stuff is so important. So it was a good chance for him to shine.
Yeah, and I honestly, as a weekly Collision watcher and reviewer, I think Tony's found a nice little niche on Collision with Nigel. I don't mind him at all, like on Collision with Nigel. Now there are nights where I feel like he might be a little bit more tired, but I'm sure if he's doing double tapings, I'd be dog tired too. So I completely understand. But I feel like him and Nigel have a nice little partnership on Collision.
Yeah, I like that team. And Nigel's with his one-liners and his analysis.
Yes,
is very good as well. He's underrated, I think.
I agree. I do like Nigel a lot as Tony's like partner for sure. But the show opened after X ran down the card. It was a full video package of Wrestle Dream. I like that. I know people kind of moan and groan about video packages,
but it makes it seem more important. Like you missed something. And the way they did it, they introduced kind of the still photos, and they hadn't done that a lot. That's the first time I really noticed it. So they put a lot of work into that and made it seem like if you didn't see this show, there's a lot going on.
You should check it out. Yeah. And I enjoyed Hangman cutting a promo backstage from Wrestle Dream, basically telling Samoa Joe he would ruin his life, and which bled to the Trios match opening the show. Very entertaining match. I had a ball for this. of course, the ops I feel like are very equipped to be better heels. I think, and with the Hurt Syndicate being cool and everybody wants to chant "We hurt people." I mean, they should have turned the Hurt Syndicate months ago. Honestly, when I was at a live show, I think it was in February, Darrin, when I was seeing little kids chant "We hurt people," I was like, "Oh, brother, they're gonna have to turn these guys real quick. They are too cool because they look like $1 million. They wrestle like $1 million. Like, these are guys. So them as full blown baby faces, I think is the better call. I really enjoyed the chemistry between all 6 guys. Shibata
was fun.
Yeah, Shibata taking a Dominator in 2025. I would have never had that on the bingo card. Now, I will say it was a very safe Dominator where Shibata landed on his knees, so he was not going to be like plumped on his head.
Yeah.
So very, very safe. I liked how they kept teasing Bobby and Hobbs. Maybe something down the road they could go back to. Very, very entertaining. And then as a TNA guy, you must have appreciated the Lashley Joe lore that we had. I think I looked it up. I think the last interaction they had was 2014, 2015, something like that.
I couldn't even remember them facing each other, but yeah, I guess they would have back then.
Yeah. That was Headband Lashley.
Yes.
Bobby in his headband. Yes.
So. Yeah, I guess Samoa Joe still was with them. Yeah. But that was good. And Samoa Joe is really leaning into this heel thing and talking about the crowd and everything. He's very intense. He's a person that they sometimes have on the back burner, but when they bring him and need him for the forefront, he always comes through. Like when his title reign that he had, which I thought was very good, very credible champion. I think he's doing the same thing here. They needed someone to fill in for main events since they have some big time players that out with injuries, and he stepped right in, and I think he's doing well.
Yeah, no, the match result, I was a little surprised that the Demand got involved because I was thinking, this feud must continue? ? But I guess
I did too. I was a little surprised at I thought that was done.
Yeah. Okay. What else? I don't know what else we can do with you guys, but sure, I guess.
They're gonna blow it off in blood and guts or something.
I guess.
Possibly. I mean, that's the only thing I could think of because I really thought that was over. But
yeah, the way they've kind of patterned the entire feud has been kind of backwards to me because it's just like. You kind of already did the hardcore match, so I don't know what else you can really do. I mean, are you going to do an elimination match? I mean, I guess. Like, I have no idea because I thought that maybe there was a possibility Hangman would have gotten involved, but then, you just turn the ops. You aesthetically that you probably don't want to beat them right away. So that I will say the continued feud is my only kind of like complaint about like do we really need to go back to that? But everything else, like you said, I really enjoyed Samoa Joe leaning into the hitting on the women of San Antonio and the sports teams, very funny. The Hobbs doing the Atlantis pose, holding up everything when Joe was talking about the women, very cool. And like you said, even though Samoa Joe is kind of like more or less a mini boss, if you would say, he's very credible. He's very credible. I don't think he would beat Hangman in whatever stepped up rematch they'll probably do at Full Gear, but talk to me, Joe. Give me at least that 5%. Then that's all I really need.
Right. Yeah. I don't think people necessarily buy that he's going to win that title, but the way he talks, he's still very confident. You don't know that you want to see the fight at least. So even if you think he's not going to win the title, their number one is a chance. He's a former champ. He's very credible, but you're going to enjoy seeing the battle over the belt. Yeah.
Going back to the chat here real quick. Zach Barber, right there with you, Brian, doing 2 blood and guts matches undermines the women, plus 2 1-hour matches is a lot. Yes, I agree that it's a lot. And like I said, I don't think they've even perfected one yet. To try to do 2 of those in one night, it would be a lot. And let's see, we've got Mark here in the chat that there's 0 sense of urgency of consequence of Tony Khan's booking. Anyone who says I'm just used to WWE is missing the point. This is poorly booked, and you have to work hard to suspend any disbelief. I would say, from a booking standpoint, it's gotten better throughout the year. I think once they made it the All In, that was kind of like the that was the end. That was like the end of that phase of like the MCU, I would say. And my biggest complaint with Wade when I joined him last week, Darrin, was I felt like, I don't mind. I'm really open to table setting kind of chapters in a book, but I just feel like it's been kind of I would just know what's on the table so I can enjoy the setting of the table. You know what I mean? It just feels like we've been kind of just just kind of just circling our gears. It's like, okay, like I've been kind of waiting, and I feel like at least now, as we're getting to Full Gear, there's other things on the table, and I can kind of I can kind of see, okay, I feel like we're going to end the year pretty strong because we've got the women's tag team titles now. We've got the C2 coming up. We still have MJF lurking whenever he wants to return. It looks like I didn't read it fully, but it looks like Fightful had an update on Swerve Strickland. It looks like hopefully, it looks like winter time potentially for Swerve's return, if I saw that correctly. Which I'm not surprised, because like I'm glad he's taken some time. Because especially since if he's been working on a bad knee for a while, like get some time off. I know there's been gaps of star power I'm missing on the Dynamite shows without Swerve and Ospreay, but just get healthy and then like come back really ready for something juicy, because like I know folks will be ready for him to come back.
And I hate to go back to it, but I mean the injuries did probably change the course of where they were going for several of these storylines. Like Ospreay, I'm sure, played a big role, and Swerve, of course. And then they were probably thinking about relying more on Omega, but it seems like we have to kind of space out his appearances because he's, I wouldn't say not 100%, but you don't want to risk overdoing it with him. He seems to need like recovery time after these big matches. So, and they probably didn't necessarily know that. So, I mean, that's not the entire excuse, but I mean, that is a factor.
I would say, and I feel bad, Darrin, because I feel like a lot of people forget about him. But Jay White's an underrated injury. A lot of people forget about him because I feel like if he was available, you could have immediately done him and Hangman, and I think it'd have been great because Jay White's like, I've beaten you twice, man. Like what? Like I'm gonna beat you. Because from what I remember, Tony Khan was really trying to get behind a Jay White push prior to his injury. So I think, because for me that's another guy, if with all the other injuries out, they could have definitely leaned on him quite a bit, I think. Let's see. And then after the really good Samoa Joe post-match promo, Statlander was backstage with Renee, and like we mentioned earlier, I felt like I wouldn't say it's like great, but Statlander felt a little bit more comfortable in the setting with Renee, and I think for Renee, she does a good job trying to get people to relax, because it's Renee, it's Renee Paquette, like how could you be nervous? So like I felt like she did a good job with Statlander and making her feel a little bit more confident at home, and onwards to building up her as a top title contender holder versus Mercedes. Let's see. Darby Allin cut a promo, came to the ring, basically said he will die for this place. Darby said he's wearing the scars on his back from the match he had with Wrestle Dream, and basically the thing they remember from his promo, he said as long as the Death Riders are breathing, he isn't far behind, which we kind of touched base on earlier, Darrin, that I guess the feud must continue for reasons.
Yes, and I really had hoped that would be the end of it and that he could go on to something else. Now, I don't think that they have him, at least not at this very moment, in the world title plans, but there's plenty of other titles he can go for. And I'd rather see that. I know that they have a few events that they can go ahead and wrap up this Death Riders feud with Darby here coming up, but I am ready for them to move on and give him something interesting to some new opponents to work
Yeah,
with.
and that's the tricky thing, right? It just feels weird with like the ecosystem with AEW right now. I just feel like there's not a lot of good big bad heels right now. You have Fletcher, you have Mox, and you got Joe, but then it's like, what do you do with Darby? Because it seems like, if I'm skipping ahead, ultimately, if I'm looking at the spreadsheet for AEW, it seems like MJF eventually is going to beat Hangman for the title, and then you have MJF and Darby, which I still feel like that match they had at I think it was Full Gear, was, oh my god, that was an incredible wrestling match, because he beat him with a headlock takeover.
Yes,
It was great. It was
it's
really
still
good stuff.
unresolved.
Yeah, still unresolved, and there's several things that you can beat on, and I
Right.
feel like MJF kind of leaning into making fun of Darby could be for fun heel promos as well.
Yeah.
But that he is an enigma, because I guess you could just book Darby and Takeshita for fun. Okay, like I don't mind that, or like Takeshita and
I was actually
Bandito.
thinking of like who are some fresh opponents. I'd love to see Darby against Okada, and that's strange you say that because I had that
Yeah.
idea pop in my head,
Well, and
and
then
I'm ready to see those type of
yeah,
matches.
and that's what you kind of have to lean on, because I was kind of walking through the path of what you could do with Darby, and it's just like right now Hangman Page has a lot more babyface opponents that you could throw him against
Yeah.
than good heel opponents. Because I mean, I don't know if doing Darby and Hangman is necessarily a good idea, but it's potentially unpredictable that you could do, and it's fresh. It's something different. Darby did beat Hangman, so there's a story that you could tell with that. So that's it's a tricky part, because you don't want to put him in the TNT title feud, I don't think, either.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
It's
it yeah,
it's
because
always tough.
yeah, no, it is, because like we can talk about it right now, because I can already outline it. The next pathway of champ. It to me it should go MJF, Darby, Fletcher. To me,
Hmm?
I I feel like whenever the next cycle
I could see that
is,
playing out.
yeah, man, I'll take all the Fletcher stock if nobody's a big believer. I think that guy's incredible. He's got everything that the company's looking for, honestly.
Definitely, and apparently he's signed for a while, so
Good
that would help too.
good on AEW for taking care of him and getting out ahead of that, for sure.
Mhm.
Good job getting a bag as well. Jurassic Express cut a promo backstage after Wrestle Dream and basically called their shots for the tag team titles, which interesting. Um, and then obviously more on them later, but I was like, all right, that's cool. All right. I don't necessarily hate that. Second match of the night, Darren, was the four-way.
Mhm.
Well, okay, so it was four teams for and the winner of the tag team match identified who they would want to face in the AW
Yes.
tag team tournament. And the four teams consisted of Willow and Harley, Hater and Amanada, which I was kind of surprised. I was like, okay, they're in the tournament. That's interesting. You had the Top Gods, Megan Bain, Penelope Ford, love that name, by the way, and the Sisters of Sin, Julia Hart and Sky Blue. Uh, I would say, very fun match. With this, I was
It
actually
was a
really
good
surprised.
preview to the
Yeah, no,
tournament.
very, very good. I'll say it again, table setting to kind of like tease what we could expect for the tournament. I was honestly really surprised. Hater and Amanada won. I just figured, I was like, oh, okay, Ford and Bain should win, but yeah, I was surprised. I like the headbutt Haterade finish. That was cool, and
Yeah.
very cool. And I guess as far as their relationship, Amanada hits hard, Hater hits harder. That's a cute thing that they could kind of lean up against. And the post match, they called out the Sisters of Sin as their first round opponents. Darren,
Which makes sense in the storyline. I was wondering what way they would go. My big question coming out of that is there's no one that's just a strong, obvious winner. So this could be anybody.
Yeah, I thought I was kind of actively annoyed because I thought on Saturday they kind of telegraphed Tony and Mina winning. Like I was like,
Maybe.
okay,
Yeah.
you're kind of hitting us over the head. Way to telegraph this. But now I'm looking at the brackets and I'm just like, okay, this is kind of wide open, and I'm kind of really, really into this.
Yeah.
And that's been one of the biggest gripes with AEW, right? Everything I was like, obvious winner, obvious loser. Like, let's move on. I feel like there's a lot of parity to this where it's gonna bleed over to blood and guts, and obviously, hopefully, bleed into other things. I guess we can kind of run through. Let's see. I've got the bracket right here. Let's see. Thought I had it on my phone here. Let's see. Okay. We got our full brackets. So on one side, this will be the left side. We've got Aminata and Hater versus Sisters of Sin. And they would face the winners of Willow and Harley versus Monet and Athena. And on the right side of the bracket, we've got Windsor and Riho versus Tony and Mina. And below them, we have Bane and Ford versus TJ. So I don't know. I mean, like, I feel like you can kind of make a case, maybe except Windsor and Riho.
Right. Yeah.
I like, no disrespect to either of them. I can kind of feel like,
But they're just not an established team.
No, they're not an established team, and I feel like, but I kind of feel like for everybody else, you can kind of make a reasonable case for like Mina and Tony. TJ, as far as like a day one kind of like tag team in the company, I mean, I don't necessarily hate belting up Megan Bain because I think she's a superstar, and I think her, her and Ford as like a. I'm trying to think. Is it almost better just to have the heel tag team as your first champions? I don't know. Perhaps Hater and Amina. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess you could do Hater and Amanada if you really wanted to. I guess I don't necessarily hate
finisher
it.
and
Yeah,
some pretty prominent names.
Sisters of Sin. They're at least established team, and they have like I don't necessarily hate it if they want to try to bring a little bit more legitimacy to the toxic group. So
it seems like they do want to do something with them, and they're very young, and I think that's important to push those younger wrestlers like that and give them the spotlight. So I would be in favor of that. And for their case. And then you have the Athena and Mercedes team, which is, I mean, they're two big singles champs. And I mean, they're
first Willow and Harley. Which,
of course, yes. Who are
the discourse of this winner is going to be so crazy. So I think I'm in just for the content, because if Mercedes beats Willow, I think people are going to have something up their britches. I think they're just but I mean, Harley is kind of like finding her way as a tag team champion. I don't necessarily hate that either. I think what? Oh God!
And she's somebody you have to do something with.
Yeah,
she's very talented, and she's getting there in the ring.
Right. I think when I was speaking with Wade last week, Darrin, I think oh God, what's the young lady on Raw that's feuding with Becky Lynch right now? What's her name?
From the Alpha Academy.
Yes.
What is her name?
Oh God, help us out, Chet. What's this lady's name? But you know who I'm talking about. Yes. I feel like Harley Cameron is their version of her, and I feel like
Maxine Dupree. Yes.
Yeah, Maxine Dupree. Thank you. And I feel like every time I've seen Harley in the ring, she gets. For somebody, I haven't checked her cage match lately, but like the running gag for a while, like she only had like 100 matches on her cage match or something. I feel like she gets a little bit better, because I kind of feel like when I'm watching her, I'm kind of watching like an AEW version of NXT a little bit, because I'm looking and I'm watching. I'm just like, okay, I can kind of, you're not getting lost. Like you're feeling it a little bit more. I see you. I get it. So that's an option as well. And I mean, oh God, just to have the potential of Mercedes interacting with Jamie Hayter again. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, run that back again at some point, please. So
Mhm. So
my
even if the tournament, I mean, post tournament, you've got so many directions and so many good teams. You
yeah,
can build some storylines.
there is absolutely no more excuses. Like I will say definitively, if there's not at least a minimum of 2 matches on Dynamite each week, then something. I'm not saying that needs to be a decree, but it needs to be more consistent. Where
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I like the conglomeration. I think they're kind of entertaining, but at the same time, would I rather see Tekla versus Mina Shirakawa on a Dynamite over them? Yes, absolutely,
Probably.
I would. I just feel like there's more broader like direction that you could do with them. And no offense to Kyle O'Reilly, I just don't like. What are you going to do with Kyle O'Reilly right now? I really like Kyle O'Reilly. I think he's a very talented wrestler. I don't think anybody's going to believe he's getting a big push right now.
Yeah. And with that said, they did have a good match with some
Oh
good
yeah,
meatballs and stuff. So yeah,
yeah,
and I get what you're saying.
yeah, very very interesting direction. Also, hopefully we can kind of touch base to that before you got to jump. But after the women's match, like if you said, Hayter and Queen Aminata won, and they basically called out Sisters of Sin. We go backstage. Young Bucks knocking on Tony Khan's office, and surprisingly, Darren, we had a very very rare Tony Khan on screen,
Yeah,
and
that was
he
kind of out of nowhere.
out of nowhere, it wasn't super awkward. It was probably Tony's best performance on TV. Like I I I think it has to be, right?
Yeah, well, of his limited appearances,
Yeah,
right,
limited
where he's standing in
appearances.
front of the camera, like
Yeah,
looking like in a hostage video. But
yeah.
yes,
But I liked how they kind of did the Tony was like, "Hey, I'll give you money, but it's going to be this all-star tag on Collision, and you have to team with the FTR who came out of the doors." And I like how Stokely left the Young Bucks. I don't know if that was a 20 or a $100 bill, but
I missed that.
it was funny. It was funny. But you did mention. Oh wait, no. We kind of touched about it after the Tony Khan announcement for Collision. This was the Mercedes segment that we kind of already touched based on. They set this up very well. Again, very heel move to have a Laker themed cake in San Antonio. That's good heel work by Mercedes. Good. That's good. And like I said, probably some people are calling this Mercedes' best performance, like as far as the segment on TV. I mean, I don't. I would say I still really like the interaction that she had with Tony Storm when they set up the All In match. I
I
feel like
remember
as
that.
far as
Yeah,
a promo exchange, I
that
think
was good.
that's very good. But as far as just entertainment and then Mercedes kind of just showing ass, this was very 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 good.
Yeah,
And I feel like Statlander isn't a huge geek because that was one of my biggest kind of gripes with the pay per view, Darren. Because the
where she got
way
out of
they
the
set
ring.
that up, Statlander looked like a huge geek. But I mean, luckily she came back, and I think I was actively kind of annoyed on the Mercedes beating Mina Shirakawa because it's like we've already seen that match twice this year.
Yeah,
So I haven't seen any, and I guess maybe this was the plan all along, and I guess I was griping over no reason. I thought I was like, okay, are we bringing in a new person? Like, but then when they did kind of like the title stip, it's like, okay, they're beating somebody. Is it like an indie person? But now that everything's kind of shaken out, I think I'm less bothered by the Mercedes opponent and the win. But I think at the time I was really annoyed how Statlander looked like a big, huge geek. But now at least I feel like she doesn't look like a geek. She looks like a cool baby face now.
yeah, and it was quite a rebound because they had some work to do when she was
Yes, I
ordered
was just
out of
like,
the ring
don't
and then
like,
did it, and
just don't do the dumb thing. Like, just don't do that, and you don't have to like work as hard backpedal to
right,
kind of fix
yeah,
it.
don't unforced errors, but she kind of
Yes.
redeemed herself tonight, so
Exactly.
on a good course.
Moxley cut a good promo. I
Yeah,
thought for kind of post match for Russell Dream. Basically kind of like the defining, I guess, line from the promo. I wrote down Darby's strength was the factor tonight, and says one day it's going to be his downfall. So,
which makes you think that's going to play into
foreshadowing.
something in the future.
Yeah.
Yes, and they usually are very good with the Moxley promos and making
Yeah,
that play out somehow.
when Moxley says something, it usually comes true. I was so the third match on the card, Moxley, Kyle O'Reilly, which I thought it was interesting. Danielson said the match was booked so late because it took a while for Moxley to get cleared for the match. I thought that was kind of like, kind of good, kind of sportsman like kind of feel. And I would say the match was kind of flat. This was kind of the crowd was kind of like, I don't know. But just like we talked about, it's Kyle O'Reilly. Like, what are we really interested? I would say the second half of the match really picked up.
Yeah, definitely.
Now I know everybody's not into mat work and grapple stuff, but I mean, when it's good, it's good. Kind of like lucha. I think when you get like really good lucha, it's like great. But when you get bad lucha, it's bad. And then if you get kind of boring, stale grapple work, it's like, wrestling happening in front of me and I feel nothing. I thought this was actually very, very good. And I don't know, this was an interesting finish because I can't recall AEW ever doing like a cowardly hit the ref finish for a no contest.
It's so rare, and it makes you think that they wanted this to be something profound.
Yes,
and it did.
Yeah, and it kind of tells the story because you kind of
so
saw
desperate.
Yeah, you saw Marina. I don't know if you caught her. She was kind of like in the background, kind of like just taking notes, and I just, kind of making observations. And then I did it did a good job bleeding into the next match, which had a little bit more energy. But interesting, it told a story. I was just like, okay, God, like we sat here for 15 minutes and saw a very good functional match. Like again, like Moxley trying to get this rebound, but like you said, like they're telling a story with Mox. It's very interesting how they go. I don't know what the finality of the Death Riders will be. I think it would be very, very cool. I don't know if they would do it or not. I would love for Marina to kind of take the helm of the Death Riders. I think that'd be very, very cool because especially since Moxley's done, he was so adamant to kind of put her in the group and he's built her up. And I think she's coming along quite nicely. I've kind of seen some more of her stuff in Defy. She cut a really, really good promo. It might have been a month ago, but there was like this vicious promo that she cut, like winning, like kind of with fire and vigor, dropping F-bombs. I was like, okay, all right. I think I can ride with you now, Marina. But Darrin, I know you got to go. Any parting thoughts before you head out?
No, I think we commented on the main event. I thought it was very good. Okada against Bandito, and is a feather in the cap of Bandito to get more airtime going forward. He's somebody I think that it could be a very central centerpiece and someone who could step up with these injuries that they're having. He's someone that could step up as a big time player, and I think they need to go ahead and give him more airtime. And I think it was encouraging that he was in the main event slot tonight, and I think he came through.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Darrin, you take care of yourself, and we'll talk soon.
Good talking to you. Have a good night.
All right, chat. So we will continue. See if I can catch up a little bit. And our audio listeners and our folks on YouTube, thanks for bearing with me tonight. Like I said, Wade had something come up, and I was kind of like called duty. So really appreciate everybody bearing with me and Darrin tonight. Derek Mitchell in a chat. AEW needs to level with some of these feuds. The Death Riders are having multiple matches with conglomeration. Which is a group of mid-carders. They are scared to book them with bigger stars. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, Darrin. Derek, I'm sorry. Like, I would have like some more kind of freshness at the feuds. Because obviously we're getting a lot of conglomeration, getting a lot of Don Callis family. It appears they're running back Briscoe and Kyle Fletcher. But I agree with you there. You would like to see a little bit more freshness. So I'm hoping as there's more TV time to build, and then Full Gear, we get a lot of fresh faces interacting with each other sooner than later. All right, One Man's Voice 867. It's the Dynamite after pay-per-view. You're not going to get answers all at once. Yeah, no, I agree with that, because again, I don't mind a good table setter Dynamite. It doesn't necessarily have to be fussy. You're not going to necessarily get a big angle all at once. I thought maybe if they really wanted to do something big, you could have gotten a breakup of the Death Riders tonight. But obviously that's not to be, and hopefully we'll get that sooner than later. And I just hope it ends the show and they make that really feel like a big, really big deal. Let's see here, going through our show, and we'll kind of go through the rest of the show here. And the next match on the card, the Conglomeration versus the Death Riders. It was fine. I would say it got a lot more energy from the crowd. The crowd was a lot more into this, supposedly O'Reilly and Moxley. Match went 12 minutes. Briscoe getting the pin on Yuta, I wasn't really surprised by that. Made sense. And then the post-match, Pac came down, jumped Mark Briscoe, and then everybody got, you have like a smosh situation, and then Claudio is about to do to Orange Cassidy what he did to Darby Allin at the pay-per-view, but Darby Allin hit Claudio, chop blocked him in the leg with his bat, and saved his life, because that could have been bad potentially. And so faces stand tall for the moment. I presume maybe you get some iteration of Darby and Orange Cassidy versus the Death Riders. Sure, I guess. They've tagged before. Entertaining. Definitely don't necessarily hate that. Going back to our YouTube chat here, Derek Mitchell, always appreciate you, my friend. Megan Bennett and Penelope Ford should be called Janela girls for being Janela former girlfriends. I don't know if Megan Bain is what her current situation is, Derek. I'll be honest. Next chat here, a good fella 1422. Tony Marina versus Monet Athena. No. For the finals, that's interesting. I mean, that is one good thing that you can say about this particular bracket historically, right? If you look at some of the brackets AEW have done, it's like very predictable. Like I always think about, I think it was one of the first Owen Hart brackets they did. It was like Samoa Joe versus Jeff Hardy, I think, and it was just like there was a lot of pin eaters, predictable winners, predictable losers. I don't know if this has kind of flair built up just because it's C2 season, but I'm so glad there's so many different permutations that you could build. Like Darrin and I said, you could arguably say, 7 of the teams could easily win, and there's a lot of different directions that stories that you could tell. Mercedes potentially winning and being the first tag team champion. I think that's an interesting kind of story that they could tell, because obviously there's history with Mercedes and tag team titles. I don't necessarily hate that, and I'm never going to complain to get Athena on television either. We got Derek Mitchell in the chat. Can someone explain to me how far Julia Hart has fallen since winning the TBS title? She's done nothing consequences and said even less. Yeah, her since her injury, Derek, I really liked her aura as far as kind of like the group leader of the House is Black. I thought she was kind of like the Rhea Ripley of that group, where I felt at the time she was the most over person in that group, because they didn't really do a lot with Brody King at the time. I like Julia Hart. I think she's still very promising as a performer. Like you said, within this kind of character, I don't know if you're going to get a lot of promo work. It's a little, spooky. I know that's not everybody's jam. I would like to see a little bit more promo work from Julia Hart. I feel like they kind of strapped her to the moon and gave her the TBS title for a reason. I mean, honestly, she did a lot of good work individually to get herself over, which at the time, if you think back, that's really hard. She had the presentation, she had the, the song that everybody kind of liked. And I feel like she's got a lot of talent. I like her moveset. So I would like to see her at some point on the mic doing a promo. I don't know what a face version of her looks like currently, but I'm for her having the faction. At least hopefully at some point they continue to build that into a series, kind of like Big Bad on the women's division. Next chat here. Let's see. Our next chat here from Duck. Let's see here. He says, I'd argue attempted professional IS professional wrestling, 90% of the stuff is done, and wrestling in ring would get you serious charges outside of it. The whole thing is simulating extreme violence. Let's see. Zach Barber 7396. Why is Riho in the tournament? I mean, it's a good question, Zach. You could have said, could you not have paired Windsor and Tony Storm because they were just hanging out, palling around? Was there an opportunity where maybe you could have done the vendetta because they've been a team? I don't know. I know obviously Deonna Purrazzo is doing stuff in Ring of Honor right now. I don't know if Sheeta was somebody that they were looking for. I know she has had. I'm not really sure what the deal with Sheeta has been. I know she's re-signed apparently. I don't know if it was like a visa issue with her or what the situation is. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I like getting Alex Windsor on the bracket because I feel like she's been doing a good job, but it would have just made a lot more sense to pair her with Tony Storm for sure. Let's go through the rest of the card here on the show real quick. Mercedes, after the smosh of the six-person, the trios match with the Conglomeration and Death Riders, Monday was backstage with Athena, and she wants to, form a super tag team. It's very good. I thought Athena played off Mercedes really well. It seemed like she was kind of almost angling Mercedes. Hey, if I can kind of use her, then I can be a double champion kind of thing. So I'll be interesting to see what their chemistry looks like as a tag team. They've obviously tagged here throughout the year already. So and again, like I said, I'm never going to complain about Athena being on television. Let's see. I got Queen and Hater winning it all. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't mind that either. I think Queen Amanada is somebody who's busted her ass all throughout the year, especially like with the Hater injury. That was super unfortunate. I like Queen Amanada. I was at the I think at the time it was Rampage when that was still kicking around when they did the all elite graphic for her. It's very cool. It was interesting because basically a lot of people may not remember she actually wrestled that debut match with Mariah May at the time, and a lot of people had said, "Man, Queen Amanada seemed like she was the person that they should be pushing at the time over Mariah May." So I'm for that, and I feel like you look at somebody like Jamie Hayter, who, in a perfect world, if everything was right, it's you would have loved to see maybe Hayter and Britt Baker team up if that was still a thing, but I'm completely for rewarding people for busting their butt. And obviously this also bleeds into other things, blood and guts, and other permutations that can kind of be on the back end with it. So I'm definitely for it. Let's see. One Man Voice 867 says in the YouTube chat, Willow and Harley kicks were great. LOL. Yeah. Let's see. Goodfella 1422. Willow and Harley winning would be huge. Could help set up another Athena money match. Yeah, no, I agree. I was really shocked that Athena and Monet was not the match for All In. Really shocked by that. It seemed like very obvious to me that Athena was going to be the one to eventually beat Mercedes, and maybe that's still in the cards. I don't know if they will do it. I don't necessarily hate the idea if hypothetically if Statlander beats her and for the title, for the TBS title, I don't necessarily hate that. Just to kind of add extra oomph to the more stakes for the match as well if it's title for title, just because everybody would be on edge as well. I at some point you would like for them, AEW creatively to at least plant some seeds on who is going to be the one to dethrone Mercedes. I know there's like a lot of discourse conjecture on like Mercedes, like why does she have all these belts? Like she beats everybody, doesn't help anybody, blah blah blah. I would just like to see some seeds planted to kind of like at least fantasy book or like identify who could be the person that could beat her. Because if you look through the list of opponents Mercedes has wrestled this year, I would say arguably Harley Cameron's been like one of the most like the best people that they've built all year as far as like one of her opponents, and they really haven't done anything else as far as saying, oh man, like maybe Willow could be a person, so it's hard to say. I'm kind of I'm for them adding title for title, but ultimately if they want to use this as kind of a vehicle to tell the Athena Mercedes story, I'm definitely all for it. Let's see. Brian, please do not say you haven't checked Cage Match recently. I will say for Harley Cameron's like total, I'll be honest with you, Derek. I don't know what it is right now. I know, like I said, the running gag. I think Brian Alvarez of Wrestling Observer said she doesn't even have like 100 matches on her Cage Match. So I'm sure she got more by now for sure. And kind of going through the rest of the show here real quick. And if you want to jump on, anybody that wants to jump on stage, you're more than welcome to if you would like. And let's see, after Mercedes and Athena agreed to be tag team partners and they agreed to tag with each other, they obviously released the brackets. Kyle Fletcher and Don Callis came to the ring and said they were done with Mark Briscoe, but then Mark Briscoe said, think again, this feud must continue. And Briscoe asked for one more match, and Don Callis said no. So I presume we'll get some type of match again at Full Gear with them. I know during the media post show, I think Tony Khan said something to the effect that he feels like this is kind of like a best of 7 series with Fletcher and Briscoe. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They have beaten Briscoe a lot. I do like I said, Fletcher's a star to me. I don't know if a best of 7 is necessarily the best way for Briscoe to win, but I guess that's the feud that's going to exist until they decide to kind of reset and go on to something else. Goodfella 1422. Harley gets reactions. Some material. She does not. She does it not for me, but she has something. Let's see. Zach Barber in our YouTube chat. I feel like we haven't quite figured out how to harness her talent just at the right level. Yeah, I mean, I think Zach, it'll eventually get there. And just kind of going through the rest of the show here real quick. After the Kyle and Dunn interaction, Renee was backstage with Mina Shirakawa, saying how her and Tony would go into the tournament and win, and then she was interrupted by Tekla, which set up a collision match, which should be pretty. I think that should be pretty good. I like how Mina referenced their history together in Japan, so that should be pretty hard hitting, I think. Let's see, Derek Mitchell back in our YouTube chat. One of AEW's problems: no one has aura, or you have a cool factor. They just chatter to sickos and have some Comic-Con fans. I would say right now, if you're asking who's like the cool person is, or who has like a presence and aura, I mean, I think Hangman Darby, and I would say, let's see who else. Joe, I think Samoa Joe obviously still does. In person, I think definitely the Hurt Syndicate still have some. They just feel like a big deal if you walk in the room with them. And Fletcher again still feels like a guy to me. And then on the women side, Mercedes, I still feel like you walk into a room, she feels like a big star. Let's see what else do we have in our YouTube chat here. Appreciate everybody sticking with me. Goodfella 1422. The shading segment was not for me. Yeah, I mean, I wrestling cake stuff. I know it's kind of old school stuff. It's tropey, but it usually kind of gets everybody. And if it wasn't for you, I get it. Let's see. Going through our chat here, and again, really appreciate you guys. All right. Let's see. The prize money gimmick is stupid, especially when you know the exact numbers these people are paid. Yeah, it's probably a little bit overdone. I think if it wasn't used so often, it probably makes a little bit more sense in as far as like the broke butts gimmick. But they wanted to turn that down. I completely get it. But as far as like the Bucks trying to wrestle for money when they're hypothetically trying to get paid for wrestling when they get paid, so it's kind of it worked for the Bucks. But I agree, it's something they kind of like overdone a lot. And if it was just specifically for the Bucks, it definitely works better for sure. But Darrin and I obviously did touch base a little bit on the main event. Bandito versus Okada. I mean, shocker, was great. The kind of finishing sequence of Bandito hitting the Rainmaker on Okada, it looked great. And Okada looked in the mood. And then obviously Okada wins, retains the Rainmaker, shocker. I don't think the match result was ever in doubt, but I think this adds just another belt, another star to the credential of Bandito winning Wrestler of the Year because the match was great. And the post match, obviously teasing tension with Okada and Takeshita, like Darrin and I mentioned earlier. I'm really into. That's probably one of my favorite stories right now going to AEW. I just, what they're gonna do with the formatting of Takeshita's like turn, because the guy, looks like $1 million. He's probably, without Ospreay, he might be their best bell-to-bell wrestler. I mean, you could probably throw him or Bandito in there. Honestly, I would probably say either one, but Takeshita's probably up there for sure. Let's see. Good fella in our YouTube chat. Claudio needs a solo run to find his time in AEW. Get a mid-card title. I like Claudio a lot. I don't know if he's going to get a big title run. Now, could he be a title challenger once they potentially the Death Riders turn on Moxley, and maybe he's kind of like a mini boss for Hangman Page? Sure. I don't necessarily hate that as an option. I like Claudio. He's very talented. He's very funny in person. And I thought that's the spot he had on Wrestle Dream with Darby, where it was a running press gorilla slam that was insane. He ran with a man who's 170 pounds and just threw him like he was a small child. It's incredible. All right, good fella back in our YouTube chat here. Rio has charisma. I enjoy her. Glad she's getting a match. Should be a solo act. Yeah, I like Riho a lot too. I feel like there's a lot of lore and love and appreciation for her, kind of just being, a day one person in the doldrums of, the pandemic, and then obviously like not the AEW's division not being very deep and talented as it is now. I would say one of my favorite, I think, AEW matches is the match Riho lost the title first night at Jax on Dynamite. I thought that was very cool. She can always tell a very good, working underneath a small person babyface versus especially like a giant. Um, I like Riho a lot. Like you said, I would like to maybe build her up a little bit more, not make her kind of like the bi-monthly challenger to a title that's eventually going to lose. Derek Mitchell back in our YouTube chat. These titles were created for Tony and Mina. Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of people say that the past couple of days as well, Derek. I will say again, at least the brackets on presentations, I don't feel like it's telegraphed, which is good. If I could see Tony and Mina going to the finals and winning, and I can also see them losing, and if they wanted to kind of divert Tony from being the primary title holder to give her this direction, I mean, obviously, aesthetically, it makes sense. There's whatever stories they wanted to tell with Tony and Mina Shirakawa as like the first tag team champions in the women's division. I'm completely for that, especially if it gets more women on TV, because I'm sure they'll definitely want to defend the titles. Maybe there's opportunities to kind of go across, different promotions and do that as well. In New Japan, wherever else, Australia, UK, wherever they want to, defend the titles. I think there's definitely a good opportunity there. Derek Mitchell back in our YouTube chat here. I hope Fletcher is done with Briscoe and levels up against fresh opponents. He's only defended the TBS title, our TNT title against Briscoe, O'Reilly, Takeshita, and Ishii. Yeah, I believe that's everybody. Yeah, I can't think of anybody else. Yeah, fresh faces at some point for Kyle Fletcher would be great, Derek. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Kyle ends up working Wrestle Kingdom at this point, especially if they need a big name on that card. Especially if Okada's not working, I could definitely potentially see like Fletcher maybe defending the TNT title versus somebody on that show. Let's see here. Derek Mitchell back in our YouTube chat here. I don't mind the broke wrestler gimmick. We've seen it before in DDP, in WCW as broke ass Corbin, and WWE, and it does make the Young Bucks more digestible. Yeah, broke Corbin gimmick underrated, and I'm very extremely sports entertained by broke Corbin. I thought that was actually very, very good. And Adam in our YouTube chat, why are they wasting Willow? Adam, I was kind of wondering what the direction is, what the plan is with Willow, because God, man, I feel like she gets some of the loudest reactions in the building whenever she comes up. I like her a lot. She's very charismatic. She seems very approachable in interviews. She seems very cool. She's got a vibe. I mean, she's very good in the ring. I don't know, what the plan is for her. I mean, could her and Harley win the tag team titles potentially? Sure. Would I rather have Willow potentially dethrone Chris Statlander at some point? Absolutely. I think Willow should be a world champion sooner than later. Not that like Willow potentially like recapturing the TBS title at some point would be like a bad thing. I just feel like there is an opportunity for Willow Nightingale just right there. She smiles. Everybody loves her. The kid, that's somebody that you can relate to kids. Adam, like I said, I mean, if I would have had my druthers, if you're asking me, if anybody was going to beat Tony Storm for the title, doesn't like if you take heel and face out of it, Willow would have definitely been a pick for me. I think she's great. She could easily be the face of the company. I don't necessarily love her piling around with the conglomeration. I just, I just think she's a little above that. I think she's kind of, I like Briscoe. I like Ishii. I like a lot of those guys, but I think she's above that, honestly. And they need to kind of approach her as a star because, look what she did with Chris Statlander in the Chicago Street Fight last year. Like, and the match that they had to follow. It's incredible. It's good stuff. Just, Willow fighting underneath as a baby face. It just seems like open goal. And we got Goodfella back in our chat here. I like that, Derek. If it's stat, I say 3 to 6 months. I want to see a stat run. Money can be earlier. Yeah, I mean, to me, I don't think Statlander's losing this title at Full Gear. I don't think so. I wouldn't. I don't. This wouldn't be a hot potato run per se, but it just, to me, when you have a person beat, there's different examples like across different companies we can use, right? I look at like a Gunther IC title run, right? And how cool that was. What was the follow up of Sammy? Like, did that really do anything for Sammy afterwards? I don't really think it did. And another one, I look at Orange Cassidy and Moxley. I'm just like, God, man, like I just really wish that would have meant more. Obviously, Moxley getting a concussion shortly after winning the international title wasn't ideal and that was unplanned, but I don't really feel like that really got the juice either. So, when, Tony Storm, she's a made person. She had a hefty ring. I don't like hot potato runs because if you were going to go to Mercedes now, I would have almost rather just Mercedes have won it all in, to be honest. If you were going to just do that, I'm not saying there can't be a place in hot potato runs. I think for me, as a wrestling viewer, in the Attitude Era, seeing so many changes with the Intercontinental title, European title, Hardcore title, like every other night, I think it's maybe scarred me a little bit, where I'm just like maybe stuck in my ways, where I'm not open to title changes as frequent as some are. But yeah, I don't. If they went with Stat so hard to beat Tony twice, I don't feel she's losing at Full Gear, but I'll be on the hook either way. And okay, Adam, you think Monet is beating Stat at Full Gear? Okay, we'll see. Good fellow back in our chat. Sammy was a Mania main eventer already. And let's see, good. Derek Mitchell back in our chat responds to good fella. I think as much as they are trying to build a tag team division, you have to equally build challengers for the world and TBS title. Will is more credible outside Tony Storm. Yeah, and that's like another, that's another problem, right? I just feel like they need to really figure out kind of like the structure, because everybody's kind of involved in them, the same stuff right now. Like you want to kind of have those different, zones, levels. And we can kind of just say, who's a credible challenger for Mercedes? Like, okay, who's our, credible challenger for the tag team titles? Who's the next up for the world the world title for the women's division? Like, it's a lot of, it's a lot of good questions. And I feel like at least, you look at what WrestleDream, like they had a non-title women's match open the show. Very encouraged by that. That hopefully that's normalized going forward. I just think little things like that's going to feed into hopefully building a better division, like moving forward, because there's really no excuse that they, AEW should be utilizing the women's division a lot, a lot more because, quite frankly, some of the, better matches they've had on the card this year, I still look back at like how terrific the Hollywood ending was and how terrific that was and how good Tony Storm's been. I know the Money gimmick is not for anybody, everybody per se, but Mercedes, when she's out there, she's great. Statlander, she's always been somebody's the terrific Willow as well. You add Tekla, who's got a whole different side to everybody. Mina Shirakawa, who's got charisma for days. Alex Winter's an interesting prospect as well. So there's so many talented women on this roster. I really wish, I'm encouraged by what they're doing as far as booking the division strongly. For me, again, I would say the last couple weeks and going into the Wrestle Dream and then obviously the kind of fallout of Wrestle Dream, I think it's very, very encouraging for the women. Good stuff for them. And then obviously you've got Blood and Guts and then everything else moving forward. I don't think they're going to do... I don't think I would do a C2 this year for the women. Maybe next year. I think that's probably a good idea. Maybe now for me, if they did a C2 for the women, I might not do a C2 title. Maybe make it more a G1 type of format where the winner gets to call their shot versus whatever title they want. Just because I'm for more people getting opportunities, but we don't necessarily need more titles in wrestling. But yeah, guys, our YouTube listeners really, really, really appreciate everybody sticking with us tonight. I know, this probably was my first solo venture with everybody on our YouTube chat, and our audio listeners are really appreciate it. I hope I did a okay job. Hopefully everything. Wade should be back in order later this week for SmackDown for his normal review. So hopefully everything goes well. And if you want to get involved with Wade later this week, for the shows, Wade Keller, gmail.com, if you want to shoot him an email there. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Derek Mitchell, thank you. You're always very kind, Derek. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for hanging out with us and your support. And you guys, everybody in the chat listening, you take care, and we will see you next time.